Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of We Ear Hustling, baby. I am Newbie the Ear Hustler, and this afternoon's guest is none other than the talented, amazing, just doing it all producer Configa out of the UK. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me, man. I
Yes,
appreciate it.
yes.
It's been a long time coming.
It has been. It absolutely has been. We've been
Yeah,
working on this, and I'm glad it finally came together. And
finally. Yeah, exactly. Loving
it
it.
comes right on the heels of this amazing project with Arrested Development, but we'll get into that in a second. First of all, I wanted to understand a little bit about your background, how you were exposed to the hip hop scene, especially over in the UK. Talk to me about your first introduction to hip hop.
Wow. The first time I ever heard, well, I heard Salt and Pepper back in '87, but that was like for the girls. It was kind of not my bag. I was a little kid, by the way. But the first time that hip hop fully resonated with me was when I was listening inadvertently to the radio, and we didn't have any hip hop specific shows where I came from. And they inadvertently played De La Soul, and I was like, "What the hell is this?" And it was at that moment I had this epiphany that I love this, and I was like, at that time 9 years old. So from then it's been on. So it was just the radio inadvertently playing this music, man, that I didn't know what it was, but I knew that I loved it.
Hmm.
And if you think about back to those days, hip hop, particularly here, not so much obviously where you're from, New York, right? It was unfashionable. It was, yes, considered a fad. We were a bit later to the game, and obviously y'all were because you guys created it. Hip hop didn't really hit here until the sort of mid '80s, really. So
Hmm.
I kind of was like, I was yeah. So particularly where I'm from, which has got even less. Like there was, I guess, a burgeoning hip hop scene in London where like Morning Love came out of, and other, obviously the Slick Rick when he was even younger came out of London. But where I come from, it was not a hip hop city. It was a dance music, EDM type city, and yeah, so to be into hip hop was an anomaly. So I remember going around asking my school friends, like, "Yo, do you like hip hop?" Like, no. So I remember there was that I connected with, like, it was this very underground, huddled up, swapping tapes in the schoolyard, but not nobody else really liked it. And I remember one of my friends played in like '93, played Snoop Dogg Doggy Style at the end of term, and nobody else liked it. Everyone was hating it. What's this? What's this? I don't know if I could cuss, but what's this nonsense? And I was like, wow. Like, so yeah, there was a lot of hatred towards hip hop where I came from, and it was a very select group of people of my peers that liked it. Yeah, so it was a
Mm.
very underground thing, well into the '90s, even well into the '90s. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the 90s being a big, like Wham was out and, all
Hmm.
these other types of music, everything but it seemed to be hip hop. Even looking at some documentaries, I was a little surprised that it hadn't hit sooner, um,
Exactly.
especially the way that hip hop is received now across seas. You would
Correct.
think that there was some sort of delay, if you will, in it arriving.
I think the delay was actually quite ridiculous because even as sort of late as like obviously '96, I was a teen and I was going around asking my peers, this famous rapper, I didn't mention his name, that's just been killed. Have you heard of him? What rapper? Tupac Shakur, or Tupac as you guys say. Never heard of him. And obviously the people that never heard of him then have all heard of him now. That's
Right,
because he's much bigger in death than he was in life.
right.
So yeah, that was a madness that really a lot of my so-called peers didn't really connect to hip hop well into the '90s.
Mm.
I was on it in the '80s, you know what I mean? But yeah, there was only a very small select people where I come from. I've got to say it was better in the sort of in the big cities like London and stuff and Birmingham. In fact, I used to go down to London and Birmingham just to listen. I used to play soccer down there, and I used to play like press record on my boombox, get their pirate radio stations popping, get all this new material, bring it back to my friends that were into hip hop, and let them listen to like the new Black Moon and stuff. And but yeah, that was because I was importing it back up from the more multicultural regions in the UK,
Right,
where there was
right.
pirate radio. Because we didn't have pirate radio popping like that, not really.
Right. What
I
part
was
of you?
on one pirate radio station, but it wasn't all that.
What part of the UK are you from?
I'm from a place called Newcastle, which is in the northeast.
Mhm.
So it's kind of known for, how can we say, sport, soccer, and having a good time, because it's considered a party city. It's a
Ah.
great. I mean, it's got better now. Don't I mean, this is the '90s. I mean, it's got better subsequently, but sort of 30 years ago, it was quite an outpost. It was kind of like we had more in common with, I don't know, Scotland than we did with London, because actually we were geographically nearer. So yeah,
Mm,
yeah.
okay.
It took a while to permeate all the way north. It started like, obviously, the hip hop in sort of it came into London a lot quicker than it came through the rest of the UK, because there's a lot of, like, Liverpool were kind of later, Manchester a bit later. You know what I mean? Like it permeated slowly throughout the UK.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've never been. I've been to Italy. I have not been to London yet, or
Yes.
UK, I should say, in general. And it's just interesting, like I said, that there was the differences now in the acceptance of hip hop
Hmm.
is just it's like a 360.
Exactly. You know, New York embraced it and LA embraced it a little bit later than them, and it permeated very slowly to the Midwest. It's that kind of thing. It
Mhm.
depends where you are, and how quickly hip hop will get through those barriers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I think in all the places that you just mentioned, I think it was definitely there. I just think that once again, even in New York, I mean, it wasn't accepted entirely when it first came out, right?
That's right.
And so we had to do our own. This is the coming of Bobito and Stretch, and
Oh, that was a game changer, man.
right, right.
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff. I mean, I'm older than you are, so I mean, one of my show and tells at school was the Sugar Hill Gang,
Oh, wow.
on
Okay.
vinyl.
Well,
Yeah.
I never thought. I thought we were the same era.
No, I am definitely older, but it's
Dang.
good. I love these connections because we
Yeah.
can compare, stories and experiences.
Yeah. Of course.
you
Of
know
course.
um but yeah, I mean, I can even remember when Hey in the Middle of the Barn came out, and right,
Wow.
Social Conflict, and I was like, and
Yeah.
Flex played it in New York, and I was like, what is this? And I was
Yeah.
hooked. So I will say that because I've lived in different states. I've lived in
Yes.
California, I've lived in Virginia, North Carolina.
You
Believe
lived
it
in
or not.
DC, I think. Did you go to DC? I heard you talk about go-go music, and that was obviously very
So no,
DC
that was just
specific.
hanging out. That was
Oh,
just
hanging out. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Going to a Howard's
Yeah.
Homecoming out there, which is, obviously a big HBCU in
So,
D.C. But even when I lived in Virginia, a lot of times, and I'm gonna say Virginia in the early 2000s, I was hearing more hip hop, unheard hip hop than New York was. So,
yes.
the talk is that New York City always has it first. That is not the case. That is
Nah,
totally absolutely not the case.
not
Um,
always. No, no. Of
yeah, I just think New York City has sort of set this standard
course.
of what's quote unquote acceptable.
I mean,
Um,
people sleep on Philly. I mean, Schoolie D, come on.
I mean, we can go on and on about Philly,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, there's just this idea that, and I'm a native New Yorker, and I will wholly admit that we are not the end all, the be all in terms of hip hop. We
Yeah.
just create it just started in the Bronx. So
Of course. Yes.
and even
Yes.
people will argue that, but that's a whole nother conversation. So tell me about the first time that you actually said, "Hey, I want to be a producer," and what iterations of names did you go through? Because right now you're obviously Configa. Let's talk
Dude,
about the
don't put me
different
on
names.
blast, man. Are you kidding me? Yes, I started off as a rapper. I didn't start
Okay.
off as a producer, number one. Oh my God. One of the iterations was corny. But I don't even want to say the name because I made some music back in the late 90s, early 2000s under that iteration.
Okay.
But I became Configure in 2003. So I've been Configure like 21 years. It's been a long time. I was going to call myself Mixomatosis. When I was changing my name from the corny name, I used to call myself Unique. There was
Okay.
nothing unique about me, man.
No, of
Exactly. I
course
was just
there is.
rapping in a mid-Atlantic accent. I had some skills. Don't get me wrong,
Uh-huh.
but that was when I hadn't found my true voice, and I was trying to pander to a lot of American friends that I had at the time. In fact, I was running with a label in LA, so it was even more emphasis on me to sound, mid-Atlantic. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But yeah, that was like 99, 2000. So yeah, I've been in this game for a long while. But
Hmm.
the initial iteration um, had talent, but was, let's just say, misdirected. Um, but then it's not. There's nothing more. I guess a lot back in my day. It was, I guess, you could say, cool to sound American. Like Morny Love, for example, when she came out, she sounded American, despite
Hmm.
the fact she lived in the UK.
Hmm.
Derek B sounded American. Do you see what I'm saying? And so I was, because I wasn't from London, and I guess London in the late 80s started developing a kind of more Jamaican swagger,
Hmm.
with London Posse. I wasn't from that area, so my direct influences have come from UMTV raps. All the CDs I could pick up in town, all the tapes I could pick up in town. So I was hearing American stuff constantly. I
Hmm.
wasn't hearing UK stuff much at all. So my reference point was definitely the media and across the Atlantic more than what was going on around me.
Right, right.
Yeah, at
And
that point.
so configure is because you're configuring music. Like, let's talk
That's
about.
right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, to assemble, to put together. Oh, and by the way, just talking about Newcastle, that's what my PhD is on. It's on about the white appropriation of black music in Newcastle upon Tyne. So people hit me up for my thesis, and I'll send it by DM. I don't like to put my stuff on blast like to everybody, but people who are interested to read it, they
Hmm.
contact me, and I'll send them a link. People
Yeah.
have
Okay.
them. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I guess there's always that challenge, right? I mean, and of course, it was a big thing in the States, when we started getting hip hop artists
yeah.
who were white. I'm a firm believer in that we don't own hip hop. I'm a firm believer in that we may have created it,
That's
you
right.
know, but as a black woman and a woman who grew up in a time where, in the Bronx when hip hop was started, you know, it also ties to a struggle. And I
Yes.
think that's
Yes.
the part where, we become protective of it.
Definitely.
I think the most important thing is, as an artist, if you are not black, that's fine. But also understand that you have to recognize and don't mimic, right? That's the other thing. There's a difference between being a talented person who just comes out, I don't care what color you are, and does their own thing and does not emulate anyone.
Yeah.
Eminem
Yeah.
does not
I was just
emulate.
thinking about him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even Bubba Sparks. Even Bubba Sparks.
Nobody,
That,
Paul Wall. I mean, we can go on and on and on.
yeah, man. Yep.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? They all have
Everlast. Everlast had his own style. That
everlasting.
Irish.
My God, and he's an amazing musician, right?
Yeah, he is.
So
Yeah. Whitey Ford. Yeah. Yep.
yeah, so you find out all these things and you get to learn. And again, I appreciate the fact that they respected the music enough not to come out and just sound like they were copying, right?
Like
Uh,
Vanilla Ice.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Exactly, man.
You also talked about, which is interesting because I have a West Indian background. You talked about that a bit in terms of the Jamaican
Oh
influence.
yeah. UK. Honestly, most people in the UK either, well, it's generally West Indian, but obviously there's African as well. But
Right.
yeah, yeah, West Indian culture is huge out here,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
particularly in the hip hop space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. My aunt was my great aunt, kind of. She was Jamaican by way of England, right? And
Oh
so
wow, there you go. There you go.
right.
Then there you go.
So you never know. I mean, it's just so much history behind. I think people in general. You may have
Yes.
something like, if we start doing, genetic testing, you will see that we're probably all more connected than we really even think.
Oh, 100%,
you
100%.
know so, but yeah, I mean, I just think that it's important that you understood that and you recognize it, and to even do a thesis on it is amazing. So I would
Of course,
absolutely,
of course. You
you
need
know
to actually, newbie, you need to read it, man, because I think you'll enjoy it a lot. Actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
send it to me. I definitely will.
Yeah.
As you're starting to go on and you're finding your legs in this industry, you come across your first big break? What was that? Who was that with?
I mean, I could arguably say it was back in 2002 with Rap Junkie Records in LA. Because I got on MTV. Well, I wasn't on MTV with a video, but I was on MTV.com. I got mentioned next to Christina Aguilera and all this kind of stuff. My release was like hyped up. I was on Tower Records. I was at
Mm.
all these different spots, man. Arguably, that was a good break. HMV over here, and I got played on Radio One out here, BBC. But I would say, fast forward past that, I would have to say the biggest break after that would have been getting signed by Chuck D to, as it was known then, Slam Jams, which is now known as Spit Slam. So yeah,
Wow.
that is. I will have to say that. Yeah,
How
yeah.
did your stuff end up in his hands?
Good question. It was passed to Chuck by his A&R, and yeah, basically they signed me. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
And so how long did you work on that label, work with Chuck? Did you put music out with him specifically, or artists that were on the label? Like, how did that work?
Well, I put my own record out, and Chuck D was on the album.
Ah, okay. So this is
Shouting
when
me
you,
out, Configa from Newcastle, all this kind of stuff. Dr. Configa, Chuck D. So yeah, yeah, yeah. He was shouting me out hard on the album. He obviously he promoted it as well. Obviously, I got played on his radio show every week, and then after that, I appeared on the radar of his touring partner at the time, Jahi, who was he went on got a rap tour with him and stuff with Wu Tang. Um, Primo, and I think there was De La as well. So yeah, so that I ended up on the radar of other people after that. But yeah,
right.
that was definitely a huge album for me. Definitely to be
So now
signed
when
by the greatest man, the greatest voice in hip hop. Oh, him and KRS are the voices in hip hop to me.
yes, I know
Yeah.
Chris and Kenny Parker, and I have
Oh
not
yeah.
I have not met Chuck, but yeah, I mean, you can't get any better than that. Now, just to be clear, so this was an album of you rhyming or just
No,
production?
producing. Yeah,
Wow,
with a variety of different artists.
gotcha.
There was Craig G on there. Sean Price was on there.
Wow.
Obviously Chuck himself was on there doing interludes.
So
Who
it's a
else was on there?
compilation.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It was like a producer less album, a led album, should I say?
Mhm.
And Rex was on there. There was Spoonie G was on there. There was quite a lot of good names. Yeah, on that
Wow.
album. I kind of like took a back seat for a couple of years, but actually maybe a year. And then Jahi reached out to me and was like, "Yo, we need to work. That your album's sick. We need to work." The tour part that I just spoke about, and that's when we started working on an album called Forward Future. And I did all the beats, he did all the rhymes. And as a virtue of that, that appeared on Speeches Horizon because he is friends with Jahi. So
Ah.
it was like a sliding door thing. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm. So now, okay, we just talked to Speech a couple of weeks ago on
Yes. Oh
Meet
yeah,
the
yeah,
Rap
yeah, yeah,
Gods,
yeah.
and of course he shouted you out,
Yeah, man. It's all love.
immensely. Talk to me about the first project you had with Arrested Development.
Wow. So going back to I think it was 2020, and Speech was bumping the Configure and Jahi album, and he was like working out to it, and he's like, "I love this," and then he DM'd me. He's like, "Yo, brother, we need to work," and I was like, "Hell yeah! You're my childhood idol, of course." And that led to I think the first things that we did. I think we worked on his remix. I worked on a few remixes for his solo project, which was already done, and then we also started working in earnest on what would later become Don't Fight Your Demons in
Mm.
2020.
Mm-hmm.
And basically AD started going in a slightly different direction, in a more boom bap direction, because that's what I'm about, you know?
Hmm. You can
Yeah.
tell, that you can see the transition,
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
which is amazing. And the one thing that I feel like your production did was for that album, the most recent album, it brought guns blazing because I think people slept on Speech. I think they thought
Yeah,
like, well, because he's this positive dude
that's right.
that he can't get with the business.
Yeah,
And
man. He could spit, man.
Oh
Yeah,
my goodness,
yeah,
yeah. I
he's the
mean,
boss.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was definitely eye opening. Obviously, he had a bunch of different features. Tell me about working with the different personalities in
Oh
terms
yeah.
of production.
Because I'm an executive producer with Speech, and after that was for the FKN Love, and that was the first album where I basically suggested a Speech that it would be sick. It was kind of in part inspired by what I've done previously, working with a bunch of different artists, but also, do you remember PE's album had a lot of features on and stuff? And I was like, you know what, we need to like get with that program, like you know what, you're gonna get a lot of love. We can get a lot of dope features, and yeah, he was like, yeah, let's do it. And then yeah, me and him approached several artists, and it ended up obviously Big Daddy Kane ended on the album, and I suggested Moni Love, she was on there. Um, yeah, I got who else? Yeah, he got Sugar Hill Gang.
Mm-hmm.
I got King Crooked.
Mm.
Yeah, so it was like it was a collaborative thing, hitting up people, let's work, send them a track, and yeah, just getting people involved. So it was love, man, and yeah, it worked. It paid dividends because that album was even bigger than the one before. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it went to number one in it was called the CBC chart in Canada, which I believe is like the Canadian BBC. So the
Mm-hmm.
track with Big Daddy Kane, which is nearly on 1 million streams just in Spotify alone,
Wow.
which would be our second million stream song, with being Speech. Yeah, so that was number one in the CBC chart in Canada. So that's like the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
You've worked with all these amazing people. This opened doors several times over, right? Are there any artists that you would want to work with now that feel like they could contribute to that Configa sound? And by the way,
Wow.
what is the Configa sound? Let's talk about that too.
Definitely, yes, definitely an updated version of boom bap. I like to think it's still boom bap, but it's not. It's not a nostalgia fest. I like to think that, and also I like to think I've got more. I've got quite a degree of variation because on the Jahi album I've just mentioned, I did one track that was Afro beats. I did another couple of tracks that had live instrumentation on, and people don't talk about that. People call it boom bap, but it's boom bap, but with a lot of extra and stuff on top. And even even the AD albums I talk about, we've had live instrumentation on there. Some of the songs don't even have samples. You know what I mean? That I've done, and I'm a sample head.
Mm-hmm.
But a few of them, such as Hourglass, for example, on this latest jam, it doesn't have samples. It's not
Mm-hmm.
samples.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so the, in but I love samples. But I like to think it's updated boom bap 2.0. It's like it's not just treading the path of everybody else. I like to think I put my own positive spin in it as well, and my
Mm-hmm.
own spin in it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So now, what are the challenges of staying relevant, right? So when you think boom bap, you think a certain era.
Of course, of
How do
course.
you elevate, boom bap in the 2000s? How do you make it so that it doesn't sound dated?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. Um, I mean, I don't deviate. I don't like to deviate too far. It's
Hmm.
like I love the 90s. I love 90s hip hop, and I do think I have to say I do think that 90s sound in hip hop has a place in today's hip hop. Just because other people are rapping offbeat with autotune with trap beats does not mean that is better hip hop. Because
Right.
to me, it's not. So I believe there's a demographic of people who love that style of music. It's like I call it 1990 now. Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a lot of people who still do great boom bap music. We can obviously talk about Static Selector,
Right.
Ninth Wonder, Alchemist. They're not old fashioned. They're in the now. You know what I mean? Like
But here's what I'm going to say about those, and those were great examples. They also, the way that they create, especially when you start talking about jazz and those samples, that stuff will never die,
never die, never
right?
die.
And so there's always, again, when we talk about iterations of things, that's the key, because there are a lot of boom bap producers who are stuck in the 90s and have
I
not,
agree. I agree.
you know what I mean?
They try to, a lot of people try to replicate DJ Premier. It doesn't work. But, you know, like you say, if you go digging for the right stuff, like there's so much good jazz stuff there. But I don't just look for the obvious stuff. I like going into, you know, extreme sort of outposts, such as like, you know, Somalian funk, you know, so stuff that hasn't been touched that you can flip and make yours. Because when I hear a song that's been sampled by someone else that I've already heard, I'm like, I lose interest. Like, nah, what been done, move on. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, I like to try and push the boundary of what the sampling possibilities. And I still love sampling, but
Yeah.
I also love more recently live instrumentation as well within the sort of last 4 or 5 years.
So, I think about those that are, younger than me carrying the torch and not
Mm.
forgetting about how important and how integral boom bap is. Uh,
Oh, hugely. It's the heartbeat of hip hop to me. I mean,
it,
without any boom bap, I don't think there is any hip hop. It's fundamental to hip hop because right now, I don't know if you agree, but the stuff that comes out now, I don't, you know, I'm not a hater, but I think it's a subgenre of hip hop. I don't think it's hip hop. All the stuff that Metro Boomin and stuff. I mean, yeah, great, but I think it's a subgenre. I
yeah.
would say,
Yeah, I mean, and that's we could talk for hours about this. I do believe that there are subgenres of hip hop.
yeah.
And when somebody says to me real hip hop, that irks me a little bit, right?
I, yeah, that term is
Because
contentious.
right, it's like, again, and I go back to it, like there is the creation. Like nobody says this is real jazz,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
It's jazz, right? Or
Yeah,
whatever. They've done it with R&B, right? It's now, so you have R&B soul, you have neo soul, you have trap soul, you've got
yeah,
indie, you've got,
yeah,
so I feel like hip hop is a lot the same in that there are, spin-offs of it.
yeah, yeah.
Now, when we start talking about music that messes with frequency,
Mhm, mhm.
for me, I can't really tolerate drill rap because it doesn't sit well with my frequency,
Same, same, and
right?
that's huge here. That
Mm.
is, as you know, huge. But I think that started in Chicago, was then imported to the UK, and then repackaged to America, to New York. I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah.
everything's, everything comes and goes. And I think that um, some of my favorite producers have turned to that, and it's disappointing. And I get it because, right, they need to feed their families and they need to
Of
create,
course, it's
and they
chasing the
feel
bag,
like,
though, isn't it? It's chasing the
yeah.
bag, though, man. Yeah.
And it makes them feel like they're relevant. And my whole thing is, if you're dope, you're dope,
Yeah,
right?
I mean, I could make trap tomorrow. I could
Yeah,
make drill tomorrow. But I've
right,
tried this stuff. I'm like, this doesn't sit well with me. I can't do
right,
it. I
right,
can't do it to myself. Like,
right, right,
so
right,
it might be more commercially viable. Of course it is, but I don't want to do it. My
right,
heart's not in it.
right. I mean, I think the first one, I don't know who sung this song. I can't even think. This is how out of tune I am with some of the newer stuff. And this is a few
Mm.
years now,
Yeah,
where there's a song called Track Star. And I absolutely love that song. I can't tell you who the artist is, but it's the border of trap and drill. And I enjoyed it. But that's like one out of 1,000, a million,
right, right.
So I appreciate the fact that I can talk to a producer that encompasses, what I feel like hip hop is and how I grew up on it and how I mean, grew up on it from the 80s until now. And so
Of
when I
course.
listen to the Arrested Development album, I'm like, yeah, this feels good. This feels
Yeah,
right.
that's
You
what it
know,
is. Yeah,
yeah. And it's still got that boom bap feel to it.
Boom bap feel.
Don't get it twisted. There's some boom bap that I'm just tired of hearing.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like,
I have to say, good point. I have to say I'm not a fan of this drumless stuff. Hip hop, you know, like hip hop without drums. I'm like, I know it's contentious to say, but man, like I'm just waiting for the drums to drop, man. Because to me, drums are the heartbeat of hip hop as well. I
yeah,
need to have my neck snapping, man. And
right,
when it's just like all one sample just looped all the way across, there's no peak of troughs. There's just that. I'm like, okay, you know, there's only so many ad libs you can do on top of that. You
right,
know, I guess the rappers are a bit off out of pocket because they're not rapping to a beat,
right.
not rapping to a drum. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, maybe for one or two tracks, but not the entire album, man. I can't listen to an entire album of drumless hip hop. I just can't. Me
Yeah, I
personally,
think,
that's why I don't do it.
yeah, first of all, I mean, rhythmically, right? When you think about any type of music, there are drums. I don't care
When
if
we
they're
go back to the diaspora, go back to Africa, the drum,
right,
right?
right. And so I get it. There's this wave, and I'm not against it, because the one thing I will say it has done is it forced me to listen more to the lyrics,
Right.
right? Because
That's
the
yeah,
first thing a person does 9 times out of 10, when they turn on a song, it's the music that's moving them first. It's not lyrics.
yeah, of
So
course,
now
of
with the
course.
drumless
Yeah.
stuff, I'm forced to listen to what they're actually saying.
Yes,
And and the other thing, and not all, but a lot of the drumless hip hop is drug hip hop, or
of
what they
course
call,
it is. Of course
right,
it is. It's
right.
the
And so,
cocaine. It's the cocaine raps. It is.
right,
Yeah,
I
the
couldn't think of the
Griselda
term.
stuff. Yeah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
Right,
of
right.
course. Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think that doesn't take away from their ability to be dope MCs in
Yeah,
terms of
for
writing.
sure.
But
Hmm.
after a while, it gets tired. Like, how much can you talk
Oh yeah.
about?
Oh yeah.
Now they could say the same thing about whatever. I mean, it's all about preference,
Hmm.
right? So I think for me, again, what I respect about what you have done is that you have taken the culture and you have not appropriated, you
Yeah,
have contributed, on so many different
yeah.
levels.
I
And
appreciate that.
yeah, that's key. And that also lends itself to you working with other different, genres of music. I know that you've also delved in a little bit of R&B, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Talk to me
Sophisticated
about,
Jones.
yeah, yeah.
That was
Talk to me
awesome,
about
man.
her, and
Yeah.
because you put me on to her.
Yes, yeah, she's. I mean, I've known her for probably 10 years now, and
Yeah.
it's like, wow, yeah, like we were overdue a project together, and it was like a blessing because it turned out better than we even hoped because it went to #1 on the Tastemaker chart and this big huge R&B this huge R&B chart, and I was like, wow, this is like my first stop at R&B,
Mhm.
really, and it got love from the charts, it got love from the DJ. The DJs, honestly, they were more all over that release than they've been all over some of my hip hop releases. I kid you not. The
Mhm.
R&B DJs were showing mad love, and they do show mad love. It's like, wow, this is probably more of a tight knit community than the hip hop community. That's what I
Mhm.
thought myself. Let's
Yes.
show them loads of love. So yeah, that
Yes.
was dope. That was really dope.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Shout out to Superlicious Jones.
He's great.
The R&B community is different.
It's different. It's way different. I've noticed that. It's
Yeah.
it's just more. How can I say? Organic. It's more there's more love as far as I could see,
Hmm.
and yeah, it's tighter. It's a tighter in the
Yeah.
community. Yeah,
I think in general, R&B is a little more accepting of certain things.
it
I,
definitely is. Definitely is.
and when you start talking about, like I said, the subgenres of the neo souls and
Yes,
now you're talking about a little more specific, and not everybody can get into those, I will say, clicks, if you will. It
that's
becomes
right.
right.
Exactly. And
So,
I think in the R&B community, right, historically, they don't really care where you're from as much because look at Loose Ends, where they're from, Soul of Soul, where they're from. Do you know what I mean? We could go on,
well,
right? But
I'm gonna
that's two main examples.
yeah, I'm gonna say
Floyd True.
back then, right. I'm going to say from, the 80s up until the early 2000s, definitely more accepting. What I am seeing now, because that's my specialty,
Of course.
is there's this, well, how come this white woman who's singing R&B is getting more shine than this black woman is singing R&B?
Are we
And what
talking about Joss Stone?
no,
Are we talking
no.
about, oh, Joss Stone.
Joss Stone has been invited to the cookout a long time ago. No, she's good.
Yeah,
But there are
she
other,
was yeah she was like I think Betty Wright produced her first album. So like
yeah,
Betty Wright is endorsing you, man. You're in, of course.
right. I
Raphael
mean,
Sadiq as well.
well, yeah, I mean, but you get like Yeba. Yeba's amazing. You can never deny Yeba.
Yeah,
I just think that what's happening is now if we thought aesthetics were important before,
yeah,
it's the aesthetic now.
yeah.
I've actually had people send me DMs saying, "Why you play that white girl when da 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 da?" And I've had to politely say to them, I don't put music up based on color. I put music up based on sound. what makes
That's
me
right.
feel good,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So I can appreciate the fact that, there are going to be people that enter. I don't care if it's hip hop, I don't care if it's R&B.
Hmm.
We have to, as I'm going to say, the consumer, because you're also a consumer,
Yeah.
we dictate what we allow in hip hop, in R&B.
For sure.
And
For
if there's a
sure.
demand for it, then we can't stop it. It's our prerogative to say we don't like it,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So I'm glad to hear that you're actually in the R&B world,
Oh
um,
yeah,
and
it's dope. It's
doing
dope.
it.
I want to
Yeah.
do another project actually. I want to do another R&B project, man, because yeah, although the album that I'm doing with the UK MC called Tommy Evans is very very soulful. It's like the most hip hop soulful album I've ever done, man. It's like wow. Okay, so
Mhm.
it's definitely a hybrid of R&B and soul. So that's sick as well, man. I have to say, and I do have to say the distinction between I guess the UK and the US in the sense when the UK will accept you if you're dope, but the US, you always need this sort of backstory that fits in. It's always a bit extra. I guess if you are to quote a certain person who I won't name, you're like a guest in the house and you're like whatever, right? But
Mhm.
I do think that the UK, it's kind of like it's always been super multicultural. Like from day dot in this country, black artists will work with white artists from the get go, man. So
It's
that's
different.
been a beautiful thing. I love the assimilation in UK music, UK urban music. Um, look at the specials. I don't know if you know about Scar and stuff, but look at the specials.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know somebody who knows the specials, and yeah, like that was a multicultural group back in the late '70s, playing
That
like
person.
reggae and ska. Like we've
Mm.
always done it. We've always done it.
Well,
And here's the thing
yeah.
for you, Nubi, right? And I'm obviously delving into my PhD a little bit, but back in the '60s, right, black music in America was called race music,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh
That was
yeah.
never called it was never called race music here. It's just called music.
Yeah. It's different. It's definitely
It's
different. I think.
different. It's a different
Yeah.
vibe. It's a
Yeah.
different vibe. Yeah,
Black people in most areas, I'm going to say not all, in most areas in the UK were accepted as is. And
definitely. Yeah.
Americans tend to be high strung.
Yes.
We're the best, da 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 da. I mean, I get it, right?
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I mean, and when you just mentioned ska, I was like, absolutely, like,
Oh yeah,
oh,
definitely. And even the punks used to work with the guys doing ska. There was a crossover. There was a collaborative thing, and
mhm.
even the early R&B. Sorry, the early like that soul music over this country. Yeah, there was definitely a crossover between different communities. Yeah, it's been. There's never been. Of course, we have our challenges. Of course, we
Yes,
do. But there's
yes,
never been the same, I guess, emphasis on race
hmm,
out here like there is
hmm,
there. And I've
hmm,
always say this. Always say that you're more defined by your class here than you are by your race.
mm.
Definitely, because
So
a upper middle class black person in this country will go way further than a low working class white person. No question.
yeah, and I
No
mean,
question.
here it's the both. It's the racism and the classism and everything
Yes.
else that goes
Yes.
with, the socioeconomic
That's
troubles,
right.
all of that good stuff. So I mean, each country has their thing, and yeah, I mean, I get it. And I definitely agree with you. I think that there have been some better opportunities for Black musicians, and this is why a lot of them have moved out of the country, right? You know,
You've just reminded me of something, Movie. Sorry to interrupt. There
mhm,
was a documentary on a blues guy. I'm just trying to remember his name, but basically there was a huge blues influx because obviously the white guys like Clapton and Fleetwood Mac made it popular. So when blues became popular in this country in the '60s, it was like black black. It's getting a bit dark
yeah,
because
I was
obviously
gonna say,
I'm
but
having a feature. Yeah, black blues guys were literally getting mad love in the UK. John Lithgow came over here, and they did not get any play in the US. They did not want to know. They'd moved on to Elvis and all this stuff, but the originals were like literally brought back here, showed mad love.
mhm,
And there was one guy, and I forget his name, but he was like he remained in the UK. I'm just trying to remember. The name's on the tip of my tongue. I saw a documentary about him, and he settled in a place called Halifax, which is like not where you'd expect anyone to settle, right?
mhm,
Big up to Halifax though. And he was like, I don't want to go back to the States to be spat in my face. I know he treated with respect. So he stayed in the UK, and his kids are still here to this day.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
I
played the
believe it.
piano. I can't remember his name though.
I don't know. I have to think. I probably
Yeah,
so
it
many
was dope.
music documentaries that forget it. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, I think that's right, and I think it's a shame. But at the same token, those same artists that did leave the country, a lot of them experienced much more success than they would have. It's almost
Jimi
like
Hendrix.
yeah, oh, Jimi Hendrix,
There
of
you
course,
go. He made
yeah,
his name here.
yeah,
And his manager comes from our city.
and, and then he
Yeah,
wound up going back, and that was sparingly because most times he didn't want to go back. When I was looking at his documentary, it
exactly.
wasn't like a fun thing for him. Talk to me a little bit about, and I think this would be great for people who are young producers who really want to get into this game. Tell me a little bit about some of the tools you use, Ableton, MPC. Like,
Yeah.
what's your go to when you
My
start?
go-to right now is an MPCX.
Mm,
But I do have to say about software, I'm still rocking some of the same software I've been rocking for about 25 years.
what is
So, yes, MPCX, love to death, but the software, you can't front it because, like Apollo Brown, I've been rocking Cool Edit for 25 years, man. Cool
it?
Edit, like Cool Edit Pro is the oldest editing thing you're ever gonna get, but it's
Mhm.
efficient and it does the job. No bells and whistles. And I love that.
Yeah, I mean, I think why
Yeah,
if it's not broken,
that's what I'm
why,
saying.
yeah,
It served me well for like since I was a kid.
yeah,
So yeah, man. So but yeah, of course, yeah, I've got an MPCX, but yeah, that's a bad boy machine, man. Particularly now the stems have come out, man. MPC stems when you can
yeah.
separate, audio and bass and all the different component parts. That's a game changer. You're about to hear a lot of great hip hop come out where basically people can just isolate, like Marvin Gaye's voice, add their own instrumentation or take the bass line. It's just amazing. That's the one good thing that AI is good for.
Mhm.
Literally, it's taken sampling to another level, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, as long
That's
as it's used
brand new
right.
as well. Mm,
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with AI as long as it's used in the right way.
that's right.
Um, you know.
Exactly.
Now, when you decide that you're going to work with a musician, hip
Mhm,
hop, R&B, whatever it may be,
mhm.
what's your process? Like, you sit down with them, and then what?
Yeah. Definitely got to kick it with them, either in person or online, depending on where they are. Because not everyone can get over to where I am, or vice versa. Yeah, there's got to be a vibe. There's got to be a sort of mutual sort of connection. I immediately could tell, like within the first conversation, the speech, that I was like, yeah, we're gonna rock. I could just tell. There's other people, no name and no names, who I elected not to work with.
Mhm.
You could say they're more I don't know, less forthcoming,
Mhm.
more, yeah, just you don't get the same warmth, you don't get the same vibe. It's
Mhm.
not, yeah, you can imagine, wow, this is going to be a long haul. If you think, because I like to project out in the future, I'm thinking a year down the line, maybe 18 months, I'm thinking, can I still hang with this person in 12, 18 months? I'm thinking, possibly not. Yeah, so I like to have good energy and uplifting energy and definitely found that in abundance with speech and other
Oh,
people. Tommy Evans is another great guy with energy. So Pescia's got great energy. Just various people I work with. Obviously Chuck speaks for itself.
right, right.
His energy is up there. But yeah, some people their energy is not as good. So it's all about the energy for me,
Yeah.
definitely.
In your world, you're dealing with people who are creatives and very particular. And so, I mean, my hat goes off to any producer who is dealing with all of these different personalities.
Oh
And,
wow! I
you know,
mean, Luby, my DM on various different platforms. It's just crazy. The amount of entitlement I get from some people who I've never heard of, never spoken to, who just want to make a 16 on do a 16 on one of my tracks. I'm like, I don't know you, never heard of you. I can't see your traction. This is my head. I wouldn't say that because I'm not rude. You have no
right.
traction, and you're just gonna rock up one of my beats. And I've been doing this for like 20, nearly 25 years. Like this sense of entitlement, as you just said, is wild. Is wild.
Mhm.
That's like newbie. That's you having carrying on and your radio, and you've got this multimedia, huge, you've got a really even bigger than you are now. And then someone says, I want an interview. Well, what do you do? I don't know. I just want an interview with you, just because. Like, what do you bring to the table, homeboy? Like,
Yeah.
that's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah.
like you said,
It's
you wash each other's hand, right?
right. Your work and or your vibe will get you further than sending someone a message saying, "Yo, what up, ma?"
I've got to
Right.
say this, movie, right? I've just been thinking this, and I thought this for a while. They need you on platforms like Hot 97, man.
Thank you.
They really do, because
Thank
you bring
you.
this organic, you know, ear to the streets aspect that they, apart from, Rosenberg has that to an extent, but you bring it like in droves, man. They need that.
Thank
In
you. I
particularly for you from
appreciate
New York. Come on.
I appreciate that. You know what?
Are you
It's so
welcome?
funny that that's the first time anyone's ever said that to me.
No, I mean that. I never really mean that.
I've had someone say they could see me on TV, but I would love to be able to do that at some point without aging out.
Yeah,
And just like any place else, New York is very clicky.
of course.
You better
Yeah,
know somebody to get in, and I'm
yeah.
just sort of biding my time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I feel
Oh,
like,
it's gonna come. It's gonna
yeah,
come.
yeah. Even if
Yeah.
it doesn't happen, I'm okay. I love We Eat Hustling, baby. This is first of all in America, and I'm not sure if you've ever heard this term, We Eat Hustling, baby.
Of
But
course.
you know, you know, I learned it in the workplace. So and so is ear hustling.
That's
Talk.
dope.
You know what I mean?
I know it's TM now, so you've
Yeah.
got all your paperwork and all that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I felt like it was important, and it started with me wanting to share music that I felt passionate about. Like, yo, did
Of
you
course.
hear this person? I don't
Yeah.
care if it's hip hop, R&B, rock and roll. I don't care what it is.
I've seen
And
it's very eclectic, and I love eclectic, man.
yes, I
So I
tried.
love that. I love it.
Tried. Thank you. But I knew that, I wanted to talk to you because I already knew I I felt like you were just a genuine person. And I
Thank
think
you
the
so
first
much.
time I actually interacted with you was on your live. I think you were getting
Oh
ready to
yes,
fly
yeah,
some.
yeah.
Yeah. And then the second thing was like, yo, his production is dope. Like,
Thank
let's talk about it. So I
you.
appreciate
Yeah.
you, excuse me, really like stepping in and saying, all right, listen, let's do it. What do you want to be known for?
Wow, that's deep, man. Basically, um, to have made a valid contribution to the culture, that as someone who should not show the culture the love and respect that it deserves, and just added to the culture. Didn't take anything away from it, added to it, and I like to think that I'm already on that trajectory.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you talked about some big people in hip hop, and
Yeah,
there's no way it can be denied at this point.
yeah. I mean, if Big Daddy Kane wants to endorse me because he follows me on all the platforms, and Chuck D wants to endorse me again, then that's enough said for me.
Hmm.
That I
I think,
let that do the speaking.
yeah, yeah, and you got to speak that to an existence, right? Like, I mean, I just saw Big Daddy Kane do something with MC Light. He also did something
Oh, that's
with,
dope. I love it. I love it.
yeah, the
That's
soulful singer
dope.
Yazara. I mean,
Yes.
he's very tangible. He's very in your reach, and I feel like at the
You
rate
comment
that
on my post. No, you comment on my post on IG. It's
yeah.
like, this is Big Daddy Kane. I'm like,
So
this is like,
all next step is say,
yeah.
can we work?
I did.
Yeah,
When AD track called Vibe, Big Daddy Kane's on it.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I would love just to like imagine like an EP with me and Kane.
Right,
That would be off a
right.
ripping
That's what I
scale,
mean.
man. Are you kidding
Yeah,
me?
that's what I mean. An EP is
Yeah.
one thing to do one song, but
But to
imagine
do
one.
a project together, yeah, man. Of course,
Absolutely,
that would
absolutely.
be the cherry on top of the cake for me, man. Because
Yes.
I've worked with so many people that I love and I grew up with, and I'm running out of people, in terms of like my checklist. That obviously people that are still with us.
Right.
I'm like, wow. But yeah, yeah.
You're,
So to do a
you're,
full project with Kane or something like that, man, it would be like, oh,
yeah,
ridiculous.
you're on your way. So what's next? What do you have on your plate next? Are you just working on things? Like, what are you
Yeah,
working?
working. always working. Next out of the gate will be a project with an MC called Tommy Evans, who's a UK legend, by the way. So I want to expose them to like a wider market. Have you ever seen the film Kiddletud?
Mm-mm.
Oh, because it's like, a lot of people from the US are on that Top Boy thing,
Mm.
the whole on Netflix and like
Oh, I didn't. I
the
didn't watch.
London swag and Kiddletud. A lot of them were in Kiddletud, and there's like a few films made before that, so it's the same vein. But yeah, my man had music in there, man. So he's a dope MC, dope lyricist, great concept. So you will hear him. Very soulful guy. And so yeah, that's next out the gate. But yeah, I'm working, man. I'm working with a famous rapper right now, and without saying too much, hopefully that is going to be the title track on his new album.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah, man.
So tell everybody where they can find you, your music, how they can reach out to you.
No doubt. Basically, at Configa, Configa. It's like I think Tupac said, "I ain't hard to find." You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I'm not hard to find. But yeah, I Configure, man. I just want, yeah, just hit me up, man. Google
Yeah.
me, hit me up on the socials, Instagram, Facebook, obviously, even Threads, and I think on TikTok, which I'm not a huge fan of, I have to say. I think I'm Configure Beats because someone took Configure. Some
Oh,
person in
wow.
India took my name, man. So it's like, okay, we'll rock with
Never,
that. And I have
never
to
a
say
dull
one
moment.
thing. I have to big up the t-shirt. I have to big up the merch because Beats for Hope with their Hip Hop Saves Lives collection. Basically, if anyone orders the Hip Hop Saves live Hip Hop Saves Live collection, also this is our speech in conjunction with speech from AD. Obviously, 100% of proceeds go to Positive Impact International, which contribute to basically mistreated women, children, and teens. So
Yes.
yeah, that's so anyone who buys any of this, it will all go to a great cause. So
Yes.
Beats for Hope, man.
Yes. I actually purchased one. It's too small,
So
but I'm still going to keep it. It's a woman's crop. And
yes,
it is the 100% of the proceeds go to women who are experiencing domestic violence.
that's right,
Um,
domestic violence. But
yes.
yes, it's
Yes.
Positive Impact International.
Yes.
I'll put my teeth back in next time. And yeah, and it's like Beats for Hope, who are like
Yeah.
basically, they're the main to go to, and they're obviously then donating the money, of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
big them
Yes.
up.
Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate you joining me. For those of
Likewise,
you who, and you're quite welcome, who joined, who watched this, listen, drop some comments. You're going to get more content like this. I mess with crazy, talented
she's
people
the dopest, man.
only. Thank
Newbie with the
you.
best interviews in the game, hands down.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, everyone. This is Configa. I am Newbie the Ear Hustler. This is We
Cheers,
Ear
guys.
Hustling, baby. Everybody have an amazing evening, and we'll talk soon. Peace.
Yep. Thank you very much. Salute.
Salute.